Hello and welcome to my third vlog, focusing on the coaching process and the evaluation of my coaching technique, style, and execution. In this video, I will focus on one part of the coaching process, my communication methods and feedback following an exercise or a movement. To help us understand the complexities of the coaching process, I look to the 5 points discussed in a paper by Cushion et al. The coaching process does not repeat itself and is ever changing. The process is dependent on the constraints put on it by the coach, the athletes, and the club. The process is always changing based on the inter- and intrapersonal relationships between the involved parties. The coaching process is filled with external constraints in which many are out of our control. The culture instilled by the coach, players, and the club positively or negatively affect the coaching process. These points help explain why developing a set coaching model is quite difficult because of these ever-changing variables. The authors also mention that we should not be confined to these 5 points when understanding the complexities of the coaching process. Mostyn and Ashworth have a book titled Teaching Physical Education, which touches on a number of different coaching styles. These can be applied outside of phys ed class and into the weight room, where we see a progression of coach-led to athlete-led as we move down this list here. As we look at the coaching styles, we can tie in the interpretation of the coaching process from the last slide, while noting that coaching styles are context and personal dependent. A coach may have a range of styles depending on the athlete, the group, age, experience, previous training sessions with them, resources, equipment, and a number of other variables. There's also the difference in coaching styles dependent on the coach, their lived experiences inside and outside of sport, their personality, preferred communication styles, and sporting experience, coaching philosophy, among others. My coaching style will change with different groups of athletes. For younger athletes, a command style is often required. And as they progress, I hope to engage them more in the process with a reciprocal or a self-check style, helping the athletes develop an understanding of what they did right or wrong and how to adapt that towards improvement. The athlete in this video has been training on their own for around 2 years and is seeking help to train more athletically versus the bodybuilding style of training which they were used to. As this athlete is learning the front squat, I let them self-explore throughout the lift, giving 1 or 2 pointers to start and throughout the lift, but as they finish this movement, I want to foster an environment where they can talk through what they felt and become more conscious of what's going on.
Okay, how did it feel?
It stretches.
All through the front here?
Yeah. Like I don't even feel it in my legs, obviously it's not much weight.
But mostly just a big stretch here.
Yeah, like that's what I was concentrating on. Was like making sure that like trying to put my elbows high, but it felt like they were down here. Like I couldn't get them higher.
No, I thought you did a really good job, especially for your first time kind of working on front squats. One thing that we're going to try out here, just to help kind of at the bottom position, is I'm going to put these down on the ground to almost elevate your heels a little bit. So I'm going to pop these down. So you're just going to go with your heels on them. Yeah. Now that stretch that you feel there in the front, that's really common, especially for people who haven't done a ton of front squats before. And in my experience, I've found that if you can consistently do them, whether it's once a week or twice a week, just that mobility through the wrist, you just gain it, especially as time goes on.
Even if it was just with the bar?
Even if it was just with the bar. Now, we're going to put on maybe a little bit of weight here. You'll notice the more weight you have on there, the more stretch you feel, because now you got more weight pushing down into the hands. Yeah. Okay? And so a lot of people think, well, let me just drop the elbows to get some relief through the wrist, but now my hand has to rotate even more to still be on the bar, versus if I lift my elbow, now it just gets a little bit more relief. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. Do we want to try 10 per side?
Yeah, sure.
Through this interaction, I was very wordy. I could have said in a fewer words and gotten to the point quicker. Additionally, I did not provide any new advice to the athlete. I didn't talk about anything in the movement that I want to be changed for the next set, nor did I mention specifics of what he did well during his front squat. I spent over a minute talking about what he should feel or elaborating on what they already did feel. All of that being said, I think a one-to-one coaching session has the opportunity to be more conversational. And while very little of this advice was applicable to his next set of front squats, other than the heel lift, it may have provided some longer-term insight and learning to help the athlete better understand the movement. During the second set, I give one quick cue about moving the elbows up and inwards, and as he finishes the movement, we talk about it.
Okay, what was the difference when you had almost elbows a little bit here versus when I told you to move them in and up?
It took more concentration.
Okay, more focus to kind of stay in that position because your elbows naturally wanted to be out here.
Yeah.
What about the stretch of the wrist? Any difference from out here to up in here?
It felt the same all the way through. Okay. I guess, but maybe like the last few ones, I would expect it to feel a little bit more. I don't know, maybe because I put them closer, it just felt the same. Like it wasn't getting fatigue.
Yep. And then what about that first set with no weight to this one with a little bit?
I liked it with a bit more weight.
Okay, what did you find that it did?
Through this interaction, I asked leading questions, such as, what difference did you notice when your elbows were up higher? And how did adding weight to the bar change the movement for you? While I think both of these are reasonable questions, I should have asked an open-ended question, allowing more room for the athlete to expand on the movement variation they experienced. This question and answer approach is talked about by Otto and colleagues as a method to help the athlete self-reflect and learn. By giving the athlete space to think about what just happened, it allows the movement and anything they learned from it to be remembered and used in the future. By giving this space for the athlete to think, we create room for the athlete to develop more awareness, and as they improve, their self-motivation increases. 2 studies that looked at athletes' self-motivation mentioned that it's the role of the coach to create an environment for athlete empowerment, leading to an increase in self-motivation to help foster better results in the future. As the athlete finishes this front foot elevated split squat, he has a question about where he should be feeling the exercise. Have a listen.
We're doing these ones. I'm feeling it more in this front. What is that where you said it was supposed to be, or is it back one?
So you're going to feel most of the work in the front one, but a bigger stretch in the back one. Because if we're sinking, so I want you to try it right now. Go into like a split squat lunge position, go down, and then lift that knee up just a little bit and hold. Okay, you're going to feel it mostly in here, but a stretch through here, right? So then if we exaggerate that even more by putting the front foot up higher, this one can stretch even further down. Right? So if I put my foot on the box way high, and I sink down, like my knee can't get there, it's a big stretch. Okay. So same idea, just a smaller scale. Trying to work greater ranges of motion. To put that muscle through more stretch. Okay. How did you find the 40 pounds on the dumbbell bench?
I could do a bit more.
Okay, wanna go, you pick, 45 or 50?
How fast do we want it to go up?
Fast as you can. So like, relatively, you're gonna move 40.
During this interaction, I do a number of things well. I engage the athlete and have them do the movement with me, as we figure out which muscle group is doing the work to support our body weight and which one is just going through a stretch. I keep it quite simple, as the athletes often don't need some added complexity and will often benefit from having a smaller understanding of the why behind it. Again, however, this is where the complexity of the coaching process is at play. Some athletes will want a thorough explanation of every exercise and how it will help them with their sport, and some have little to no interest in the why and will just happily do what you tell them to. The last thing I did well is giving the athlete autonomy when picking their weight for the next exercise. Not only does this give the athlete some control based on how they're feeling, but it also becomes a small step to developing some increased intrinsic motivation. If I were to improve one component of this interaction, it would be the speed at which I deliver my response. Watching it back, I felt as if I was in a rush to explain everything I could think of, while not being as concise with my words. To conclude, the coaching process is still incredibly complex and dependent on various uncontrollable factors. This assessment has helped me understand my process more thoroughly. My coaching process has taken on a more reflective and self-check style, helping the athlete understand their movement faults and successes, increasing confidence and intrinsic and extrinsic motivation through an environment that supports autonomy. Through my reflection, here are the 3 main things I need to continue improving. Investing time in improving my communication methods, both verbal and demonstrative. Asking open-ended questions that foster a creative and reflective environment for the athlete I'm working with. And lastly, giving the athlete appropriate autonomy in the weight room to help them improve their motivation. Thank you for watching my 3rd vlog,
and here is a list of the references I used throughout.